Hey, what's up? This is Udolena from Udolena the Digital, and today is time for a new video. Thanks to all of you who subscribed to this channel and helped it to reach 1000 subscribers. This is really great. I appreciate you again from the bottom of my heart. Really thank you for your support so far. If you're new here, welcome. This channel has a new video every Sunday and topics vary from books, personal development, as well as marketing and business, book reviews, course reviews, and tips. I work for Google, however, everything that I'm sharing here is my own personal opinion and my own space and my own views on life. Today I want to have a little bit more different video. This is inspired by a movie which I recently watched on the biographical movie called The Iron Lady. It's the biographical movie about the life of Margaret Thatcher, one of the most famous UK prime ministers. And why I decided to talk about this topic is I find it fascinating, her personality, from seeing the movie. It was brilliantly played by actress Meryl Streep, which won her Best Actress Oscar award in 2011. Wonderful movie, I really recommend it. And also telling the story of someone who has been viewed in very different ways throughout history. Margaret Thatcher was until recently the only female Prime Minister of the UK, and until now the longest ruling Prime Minister. In the UK, the way the system is that Prime Minister is the highest position that you can have. Like, there is no president, but there is Prime Minister. And she was a Prime Minister from 1979 until 1990. The movie follows her story kind of back and forth from 2011 when she is old and really dealing with the grief for her husband. So there is kind of this personal line around her life going through the whole movie, and also the professional, so kind of bringing back to her career and through her life and trying to discover actually who she actually was. Interesting fact, when I came first in the UK, actually it was 2011 when this movie came out, and I was fascinated how hated she was here. I always thought that she's a remarkable historical person. I didn't know too much about her, but I have heard only good things, even though I was coming from Eastern Europe. She was really considered to be one of the best prime ministers the UK had ever had. But people here were absolutely against that. Most of the people saying that she was terrible, she took away benefits, she increased taxes, she took like a lot of jobs away from the miners, and it's still a very controversial topic. Anyway, the movie actually shows, very interestingly follows the whole line and why and who she was and why she had the ideas that she had. She was born in 1925, so she was a young lady when the Second World War happened, so she saw the bombings and everything. She was daughter of a grocer, famously being called after her kind of nimble origin by people throughout the whole time, even when she was a prime minister. This is kind of a typical thing in the UK, like your background or pedigree matters, like who is your parents, your lineage. It's still something, it's still a thing. She didn't come from a posh background, definitely not. She was from a family of a small business owner, a grocery store. She was working in the grocery store. She earned a scholarship to study in Oxford University. She was working as a chemist, and in her part-time she was studying. So she was really hard-working lady, and she was a big believer in conservative ideas. Her father was conservative, involved in political life, even though he was business owner mainly. And she stood for this kind of capitalist conservative ideas. Throughout her whole career, she was against any kind of communist, socialist type of government. She despised that. She was very vehemently defending capitalist ideas, because this is how she was brought up, this is who she was, and these were the principles that she was standing behind. One typical thing about her, really fascinating, is the fact how principle driven she was throughout her life. She really believed in something and she would just go and defend it until the last drop of blood. She would not negotiate, not make consensus, not kind of 50-50. She would just stand behind her ideas, and this is already something fascinating. A lot of people find her ideas not so good, I think, especially the topics around social care, about social benefits. It's still a matter of fact. Even now, the UK has like some of the lowest social benefits, and some people think that they're too much. This is actually heritage from, if you look back in history, after the Second World War, the UK was pretty much became a welfare state. And this was in the historical context of the Cold War and everything that happened. Also the consequences after the Second World War, there was a lot of poverty, a lot of destroyed houses. So the state had to take control and kind of help to rebuild the country. However, this gradually led into a deeper and deeper decline, and by the time when she became a prime minister, Margaret Thatcher became a prime minister, the country was really in a difficult state. There was a time, actually, there was a 3-day work week. 3-day work week, not because people were so efficient, it was because there were constantly strikes and there was not enough electricity and coal in order for them, like there were power cuts. And they couldn't even continue working. It was at that state, like, and this is what they show in the movie, that during the time when she first gets into cabinet as a Secretary of Education, they have to stop their meeting because there is a blackout. So it's if you actually read Atlas Shrugged, which is another book that I reviewed recently, you can check a link up there. This is kind of like the situation which this book describes. Like the country is kind of brought to its knees by people striking constantly, wanting things, and essentially the whole kind of mixed state of half welfare, half nationalized, half corporate is not really working. And this is what was her opinion. So she started getting rid of this state. And this is why she's hated mostly. Like she, for example, there were a lot of national owned coal mines in the UK. UK was a big producer of coal at that time. And she started getting rid of them or getting them privatized, because many of them were not profitable, and they were actually working at a loss. And because this led to a lot of miners, like almost 20,000 people lost their jobs, obviously she was absolutely hated in the UK, and this brought again riots, conflicts, but she believed that that was the right way to go. She believed that in the future they cannot sustain a state which is going to bankrupt, literally bankrupt, if they have these mines that have no opportunity for growth, no prosperity. She believed that actually this is impossible for them to sustain. And the UK has to transform itself into a different, because there is a different world coming in, there's technology getting in, there is new type of economy, new type of businesses. And she was, to a big extent, the reason why UK moved from a heavy industry producing company, like the Industrial Revolution started in the UK. It gradually turned into a service-based economy, which is until nowadays. There is like the formation of city banks, the financial district, a lot of technology, innovation companies, like this kind of things that you cannot actually sustain the whole nation into the future, in her opinion, by just feeding these losing coal mines. Anyway, this brought her a lot of controversy and a lot of dispute. Until nowadays, people hate that. Another interesting moment is the war around the Falkland Islands. The Falkland Islands were UK territory, kind of left over from the huge British Empire, and they were taken back from Argentina. So the Falkland Islands, if you look at them up there, thousands of miles away from the UK, huge, in the other side of the world, really. But if you look into more politics and read, especially I recommend you to read this book, Prisoners of Geography. It's a really good read and explains exactly why the Falkland Islands are actually very important strategically to the UK. Nobody expected from Argentina that the UK is going to actually send troops to get the islands back. But they did.
The Argentinian junta, which is a fascist gang, has invaded our sovereign territory. This cannot be tolerated. May I make plain my negotiating position? I will not negotiate with criminals or thugs. The Falkland Islands belong to Britain, and I want them back. Gentlemen, I need you to tell me today if that is possible.
The Iron Lady sent army, they won the islands back, and it was a very proud moment. At that time, she would say that she would not negotiate with thugs, with terrorists, with anyone who is trying to blackmail her. And this is what she stand behind. She said, like, there are British citizens living there, they're our territory, this is an invasion of our territory, regardless how small and how far away it is. But if you look into the details, you understand that it's actually very important small territory, and we have to defend it. And she did. So this brought her a lot of recognition, and probably one of the reasons why she sustained as a prime minister for almost 10 years. At the end, she was forced to resign by her own party, really, due to all these unpopular laws that she was passing through. She was cutting, again, like making more taxes or making the tax equal across rich and poor, which was a hugely unpopular law. And essentially her party stopped supporting her. They elected another leader and forced her to leave her position as a prime minister because she was not going to be elected as the next prime minister. So yeah, she resigned, and yeah, the movie finds her like 20 years later when she's an old lady, her husband has passed away. She's really struggling because she finds it difficult, she's almost forgotten, irrelevant now. Even though she's remembered well, they are making a portrait of her in 10 Downing Street, like the White House of the UK, if you can say it. So she feels irrelevant, she feels that she's not really needed. And the biggest problem is actually that she cannot go over the loss of her husband, who was her main kind of consort and partner and friend in life. So this part of the movie I absolutely loved and almost cried when she was constantly having these mental fights trying to lose and let go of the past. So yeah, she died a couple of years after the movie was released. I remember that I was already in the UK. It's a fascinating story, definitely worth more reading, inspired me to research more the history of the UK, especially the recent one, and find more about the economy and this subject as well. Let me know in the comments if you like to hear more on this topic. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. And I'll be back with a new video next week. Thank you so much for watching.